TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my tickets!
Everybody loves Hypno Toad.
Scary dog!
Blurson and Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting Premier Podcast TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is Woohoo! Pam and Tommy, brought to you by the good people at Hulu, Cone's production company, Limelight, Point Grey Pictures, Annapurna Television, and Lionsgate Television. Pam and Tommy is an American biographical drama miniseries chronicling the marriage between actress Hotsy Totsy Pamela Anderson and Mötley Crüe drummer. He's the one they call Dr. Feelgood, Tommy Lee, played by Lily James and Sebastian Stan, respectively, in case you didn't know which one was which. During the period of their unauthorized sex tape, which was made public, based on the 2014 Rolling Stone article, Pam and Tommy, the Untold Story of the World's Most Infamous Sex Tape, by Amanda Chicago Lewis. The series was created for Hulu by Robert Siegel and was produced by the aforementioned production companies. And joining me to discuss this tonight is sex tape critic extraordinaire, Jesse Starcher. How do you do, sir?
Yes, you can find my writings on many reviewed sex tapes online.
Check out Jesse's profile on
Mark
FetLife. Check out Jesse's profile on FetLife, where he reviews sex tapes.
What? No. That's the wrong introduction. No, yeah, man, this is going to be a fun discussion. This series, I had a lot of expectations going into this, and when we start the first, when we were starting the first episode, I watched this with my wife, by the way. So
sure,
we
all did. We all watched this with our wives.
I got to get the at least her input on things as we were watching this, but yeah, I didn't know what to expect other than thought it was going to be just a laser focus on Pam and Tommy. And I had no idea about the history behind this, and that's what I liked about this. So
this was a really fun, crazy series with a lot of twists and turns for something you think is innocuous as some dude stole a sex tape and put it out for the world. Yeah. Speaking of which, this also is a story of how women are objectified and sexualized, the differences between the perceptions of men in sex and women in sex. So women's rights activist Alexis Hejna from Honeysuckle Rose Creations with the women's perspective. How are you doing women's perspective, Alexis Hejna, with the women's
I thought that was your daughter's title.
Well, she's not watching Pam and Tommy now, is she? Hell kind of a pair, dude. This is a family show, madam.
Better not be. I got my daughter, who's 16, coming to me and said, I'm on like the 5th season of Shameless. And I'm like, wait a second, kid.
No, she's still watching a lot of anime, half of which I don't know what it is. But how are you doing, Alexis?
I'm doing well. Missed you guys. Haven't been on a show in a little bit. It's like you worked me to death last month, and then all of a sudden it's like, I don't need you.
Time to take a break.
Everybody gets a turn on the merry-go-round. So that's okay. Dave has like 67 shows in fucking May, so that's his month. Jason's month was February. Dave's month is May. I can't every month I go through and I make the spreadsheet for who's on what, and I looked at
who's on first.
Yes, exactly. What's on second?
Beat me to it.
I was gonna say the joke was too obvious.
There's always somebody that has the lion's share of the shows every single month. But yes. So let's talk just about kind of where we were. I don't even remember what year all this took place, but I know for me, when the whole sex tape thing happened, I don't think I knew that it was stolen at the time, Jesse. I thought it was something that maybe they just put out there, and because I'm a big old sex pervert to begin with, I didn't really care. I've never watched it, to be honest with you. It wasn't something I was particularly interested in. Grainy VHS footage of two people fucking on a boat's not really my thing, and and the fact that it's Tommy Lee and Pam Anderson, meh. But it was kind of a cultural phenomena when it happened, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, man. I can say that I was probably right there with you, where I didn't have the obviously as a man. Of the male persuasion, I should say.
A male.
Finds,
thank you for letting me know what your pronouns were.
that finds Pamela Anderson very attractive. I found her very attractive back then. That was the draw to that tape. Oh my goodness, you get to see this, this woman in her bare nakedness. I never watched it either, though. That's the thing.
I mean, quick question. Like, we don't need to get into all of our perversions here, but I mean, I have seen her.
I've got a list here somewhere.
I have seen her pose naked, and I guess it was Playboy.
Well, probably.
So I think that was the other thing. It was just like, this isn't. I wasn't interested in Tommy's dick, and I've seen her naked already. I don't need to see them, have sex.
Right.
So
Right.
Just back to you, like that to me, like that was the disinterest for me. It was like meh.
Well, I think even I would say that I became aware of the tape itself. What'd they say? It was 95 when all this went down.
Yeah, it was 95 when it was. I just thank you, Wikipedia. Yeah, it was stolen in 1995, widely distributed on the internet.
Okay, so the internet, about around in these parts here down in Ohio, I'm still on bulletin board systems probably around that time.
Right.
Barely getting.
You're on that Prodigy, huh?
While the picture is loading so slowly. There ain't no way I'm getting into a video or ordering a video or doing anything like that. That's all brand new to me. I would probably say around 97, 98, I may have heard about it. But again, it wasn't something that I went to find. I didn't have the money to drop on it. I wasn't going to drop any money on it, even if I knew it was for sale. So it was one of those things. I also think I was pretty aware of the fact that this was something that you said you thought it was purposely released. And I think I was there with you, but for some reason, I'm also thinking that at the time I was hearing the murmur about how it wasn't supposed to be out there. This was something that was private. There you go. Ronnie Adams tuning in here.
Their internet was made up of strings and cups.
I think, Ronnie was like sitting there doing Morse code with a little string and a cup there.
Every now and then they suddenly hear in the back of their heads, they wake up in the middle of the night screaming.
So I was shocked, Alexis. Now you are, I think in your mid to late 30s, if I remember correctly. You're, I think, around my wife's age.
37.
37, yeah. So literally within a year or two of my wife, just a little bit younger, which means you were considerably younger than us in the mid to late 90s. I think 1995, 96, 97, when this is all taking place, I'm in college. So I'm 18, 19, 20. Jesse's around the same
95,
age.
I would have been 10 or 11.
My point being, how aware of this were you as a tween child? More to the point, what made you want to watch the show if this wasn't something contemporary to you at the time?
Well, it wasn't, but first of all, what caught my attention, I'm just going to go ahead and confess, with Sebastian Stan.
Okay.
Big fan of him.
Have you seen him in Fresh yet?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I loved Fresh.
How good is Fresh, right?
I loved Fresh.
Yeah, to me, yeah. If you get a chance to hear Jason and I gush about it, it's so good.
It's one of the first times I've heard you do a spoiler warning. I don't think you've ever done a spoiler warning ever. You
can't not do a spoiler warning or just not talk about that movie.
Yeah.
Right, go ahead.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just, oh my God. No, Andre and I loved Fresh. No, I'm a huge fan of Sebastian Stan. Been a big fan of his for ages. I think he's an amazing actor.
Okay.
So what caught my attention was him being in it. Then what also caught my attention, weird as it sounds, was Lily James, who I'm not a particularly huge fan of, but I saw the trailer and I was blown away by the makeup.
Yeah.
Just was like, that's the girl who played Cinderella in the live action adaptation. What the hell?
Yeah.
And the more I watched the trailer, I was like, this looks interesting. And I wanted to see it.
I watched it with my wife and on our Thursday date nights over the past couple of weeks. And both of us, that was the first reaction, was like, those can't be her real boobs. That's gotta be makeup and all kinds of trickery going on, because no, I saw her in Cinderella. No, ma'am. There's some CGI going on here or something.
There's some special effects for sure.
I would say it really has shown just how far we've come in makeup. I still remember, oh God, what was it? Demi Moore had to get breast implants for striptease, and it was like if Pam and Tommy had been made back in the day, yeah, they would have made Lily James get breast implants. It's like, no, that is all makeup. We saw her at the Oscars. She looks
radically different.
Normal, I guess. Well, normal for her. It was just like, yeah, I was watching that in my hotel. I'm like, I
not
still
quite
can't
so voluptuous would be a nice way of
not
saying
as enhanced.
Well, not just that. I mean, did you guys see here? She actually had to wear a prosthetic forehead to play.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, prosthetic forehead, the wig, blue-eyed contacts. Yeah, just so much. I remember looking at something like, if this doesn't at least win some awards for makeup, I'm gonna just be shocked.
Wow. So specifically about the sex tape, though, when were you aware of it? What did you think about it? Did you think about it?
It was not really something that comes up in, know, when you're 10.
Yes, I get that.
But I do remember thinking as a kid that it was released on purpose. I guess I don't know if that was just what I had been told, or in my mind I didn't understand why someone would steal and release it.
Right.
Being so virtuous and innocent as I was.
Right.
My parents are former Catholics. I grew up in kind of a conservative house.
Understood. All right, so I'm just going to come right out with the most obvious thing to talk about. It's a very slow beginning. You know, you're getting to know Tommy and what a abusive asshole he can be. And you get to meet the construction guys that are working on his house that start off the whole thing about getting the tape stolen. And everything is just being set up. And then they're going to go back and forth like a lot of modern television does. We go forward in time. We go to flashbacks. You know, different perspectives are being shown over the course of 8 to 10 to 12 episodes. But what everyone really wants to hear us talk about, what came up in the chat, and I think probably the most memorable thing about this show, Jesse, is Sebastian Stan as Tommy Lee talking to his dick. Let's just get it out there. Let's just start off with this. Let's just
you
put it on the
did see
table.
who voiced the dick, right?
I don't remember.
I saw his name, but I didn't recognize where he's from.
I don't remember the name. What was the name of the actor?
I don't know. He's shown up multiple times in our reviews, Mark, and we have joked. It's like when you need a character or you need an actor to voice a total jerk, you get this guy. He was in season 2 of The Boys.
Okay.
Or not The Boys. No, he was in season 1 of Invincible.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And he was when we did The Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse, he was that snake agent in that one. George Lee. Yeah, you get him when you need the voice of a jerk.
Well,
I don't know why. He seems perfectly nice in real life, but he just has this jerk voice.
Well, he definitely played a jerk penis here. Jesse.
I will tell you that my wife was noped out at that point, and I had to drag her back.
She tapped, huh?
I said, please, just watch this with me, please.
You must watch this talking penis, Mindy. You don't understand.
I didn't note out, but I was literally like, whoa, okay,
Yeah.
wasn't expecting. I mean, it's like that is the reaction. Just okay, that's a thing.
Here we're gonna tell this story. It's slightly feminist. It's just the history of porn. And oh, by the way, dick. You're like, whoa.
You make if you don't know what this is about, you make so many assumptions based off of what you're getting in that scene. You're like, is this the way this whole series is going to be?
Does he talk to his dick?
Am I going to have to see another one of these scenes?
Right. Is this going to be like a concept, like a Smeagol thing where he's constantly like he's going to pounce on a hobbit or something? What's going to happen here?
Yeah, that is bad. It was really bad. And I mean, I'm glad Mindy stuck with watching the rest of the show, because that scene, it unfortunately it stands out amongst the rest of this series, but it is definitely not the defining what this is about. I mean, it doesn't.
I'm partially just to be funny, but there is something to the fact that it's so off of what the rest of the show is.
Right.
This isn't really, Alexis, a psychological examination of Tommy Lee. I think the show kind of points at, from about 50 yards, the sexualization of women. And I was thinking about, I'm going to make a really funny comparison here, and you're going to kind of like roll your eyes when I make this comparison. But I was thinking about Scarlet Witch's line in the trailer for Doctor Strange, where she's like, "You break the rules and you're the hero. I break the rules and I'm the villain. This doesn't seem fair." Right. And it very similar to what Pamela Anderson says. It's just like, you are seen banging me on a boat and everyone goes, high five for banging the hot blonde. Those exact same people think I'm a whore now. I was in the same event that you were. And it does speak to the larger issue of perceptions of women and sex and virtue and all of that. And I think it's a fun and interesting but odd place to have a discussion over how we treat women in sex in the sex tape show about Mötley Crüe and Baywatch star Pamela Anderson, Alexis.
Absolutely. I mean, you get that scene where she's in Baywatch and you have the directors literally going back and forth on how much of her ass they can show in her swimsuit. They are literally measuring her wedgie. And there is truth to that there is, so it's like so much skin will get you fined by the FCC. It's like there is a limit. There is like a mathematical equation on how much skin a woman can show. But it's so degrading that, that's the name of the actor who voiced the penis.
Yes, and he was in Brooklyn Nine-Nine as Pimento. Now that he said that, I know who he's talking about.
Yep. Pimento. All right.
Yeah. And it really is horrible. I mean, you have the later scene with them in the hotel, and he's downstairs at the bar getting high-fived and talking about how great it was for them.
Right.
And she has had her career just essentially flushed down the toilet.
Right.
It's, Tommy goes through this after this whole thing starts. His argument is, I was there too. It's my body too. And he's trying to sympathize with her, but again, she's trying to say that's not true, Tommy, that things are different for me compared to you. And I think there's like maybe 2 or 3 situations where he's trying to make this argument that it's my body too. I'm out there as well. And then finally, when he's in that bar scene that you're talking about, Alexis, when he's down there talking to those guys and he's kind of yucking it up, even after he got into a fight, like I think earlier with some dude about it, because he was more concerned about it being his wife, I think. Then he finally realizes that, oh, okay, yeah, it is different. Here I am doing exactly like she's saying, and I am the one getting the adulation. I'm the one getting the high fives. I'm the one getting the, mad respect for doing what I was doing, even though.
Meanwhile, she's slut shamed.
Exactly. She's in the exact opposite situation that I'm in right now. She is not, and she takes her body very, let's say very seriously. It's her body. It's a private thing. It's a very private thing.
Well, it's an interesting thing because, and we're going to jump all over the place for people watching at home. We're not going through this episode by episode. We're just kind of having a general discussion about it. But one of my favorite scenes of the entire show is the courtroom stuff. And I like it because
the deposition.
Yeah, the deposition with her.
The guy's asking those horribly uncomfortable, invasive questions.
Yeah, because the implication is she made a conscious decision to pose nude in a widely read periodical filled with nude women pictures. And because of that, she has no right to privacy, is the implied statement. She has no right to privacy. Her body is public domain. Anytime, her sex is is public domain, which is like, it's an interesting thing to point out about our society because it's not something we talk about openly. It's such a weird thing because, like, post-sexual revolution, like, we think we've come so far, and there are certainly elements of our society that are very, pro-sex, sex positive, etc. But we saw this puritanical thing going on, and we definitely have something like strains of our society that still seek to keep women kept as if they're not sexual beings. And that's what the show was talking about, those scenes in particular.
It is really hard. I think we've talked before about, just the double standard from men versus women and how insane it is. And this show really does highlight it.
Yeah.
Women, for some reason, it's like if you are viewed as sexy, then that's all you are, is a sex object. You are not a woman. You are there for sex. And if you are not viewed for sex, then you are a potential mother. You're a walking uterus.
Right.
And it's just women are finding it so hard to be both. It's like, we can be sexy. We can enjoy sex. We can enjoy flaunting our bodies. But so many people look at something like this and they go, if you're willing to do, it's like to show your body nude, then you must like being a sex object. You get a lot of that with the disposition.
And none of this happens with guys who are just as likely to show off their bodies. I mean, like Jesse and I like to do that. Like we have very much, muscular bathing suit bodies that we like to show off on TikTok.
Got a whole 1-pack right here.
I have a 6-pack in the fridge. So, but my point is, like, joking aside, we don't do that to guys who behave in the exact same way. If a woman behaves the way a man behaves, there's negative reaction for the exact same behavior that men are applauded for and encouraged. And no matter how many strides we make in dealing with sex and the sexes, we keep kind of coming back to this as if we're very much uncomfortable with women as sexual beings, and owning their sexuality.
Well, and there's a lot of discussion about consent. You know, she's posing in Playboy. She's giving consent for other people to see these pictures of her.
Not to mention the photographer. This was one of my favorite parts of that, was the photographer was saying, we'll go till you feel comfortable. Right. He never tells her, okay, now off with the bra. No, you have to show your boobs. He makes it clear, when you want to stop, we'll stop.
Right.
And she does what she's comfortable with. And that's so important to the dialogue.
You brought up consent, and consent is one of the big themes of this show. Obviously, no consent was given, but they outright state that. And not even from the perspective of Pam and Tommy, when Seth Rogen's character, the carpenter, is trying to shop the tape around, what is every single one of the pornographers?
Right, dude.
Yeah, you got the release forms?
Do you have releases? Well, no. Get the fuck out of my office then. I'm not, because of this very same thing. Which I thought was interesting. I do want to talk a little bit about the Seth Rogen character, and just, we can talk about this for a little bit in terms of plot and craft. So this whole thing is about revenge. That's an element of this story. He's doing work on Tommy Lee's bedroom, and because Tommy Lee has sold X billion dollars worth of records from Mötley Crüe to Dr. Feelgood by this point, he has the money. He has the money to spend however way he wants. So if he asks for the bed to be one way, and then he's like, do it the other way, and the guy's like, but that's going to be more expensive, blah, blah, blah.
And you haven't paid a cent yet.
Right. Tommy's like, I don't care. I have the money. Do it.
I was going to say, I think we've all had occasions where I don't know if you guys have done a lot of freelance work, but I think we've all had occasions where we're doing a job for somebody. It's like, you do realize, if you want me to go any further, I need to see at least partial payment. Yeah. I'm a former I still do freelance work, but I've had so many cases with graphic design where someone said, okay, I want this and this and this, and then they change their mind and say no. And it's like, well, you're still paying me for this. And then they throw a fit about how much I charge. So
as you get to know Tommy at the beginning of the show, he's abusive to the guy. He's abusive. He's entitled.
Threatens him with a gun.
Yeah. And then at the very end of this, he steals his tools and then doesn't pay him and throws him out. And so the whole break-in is just to get the tools back. He just happens to find the tape by accident. And then he sees what's on it purely on a lark. And then he's like, And I want to get your opinion on this, Jesse. So the Seth Rogen character, who again is not a professional pornography maker, he just stumbles upon this golden goose, and he's like, "Well, my tools have been stolen. I have no money. I live check to check. Here's a tape of Tommy Lee's talking dick, on a boat with Pamela Anderson. What can I do with this to try to make to make some money and pay my bills?" And I thought that was an interesting perspective that the show takes, because it's very clear the show is cheering for Pamela Anderson. The perspective is this woman through this process was abused and taken advantage of. And this is a cautionary tale for women, especially about how to treat yourself and how others will treat you in terms of sex. And then with the Seth Rogen character as sort of almost like a point of view character in this, you see it from both sides. Like, did he steal? Yes. Is he a putz? Sure. Was he wronged? That too. And so he, you can see it from both sides with him. And then Tommy Lee is just addicted to the whole thing. He's just terrible.
Right.
If there's a villain in this whole thing, it's not the guy who stole the tape, it's Tommy Lee.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He is the, he is the genesis of what happens here. And with Rand, which is Seth Rogen's character, he's this, you're cheering for this guy. At the beginning, you're like, you want him to get one over on Tommy Lee.
Right.
There's, you want this to happen. You want him, but then you start to realize that, and of course, Rand realizes that he's not just hurting Tommy Lee in this. And yeah, he's looking at it as a paycheck, but he soon, one of the cool aspects I think of Rand's character is this whole, new age belief that he has in karma and how things come around. When what goes around comes around. He thinks that's the whole reason he's going to get one over on Tommy Lee, because he pulled a gun on him, made him pee his pants. All right. he peed his pants, and he's like, all right, it's on, buddy. I'm going to be your karma. I'm coming after you. And then what he realizes is he in turn did something very wrong to somebody else, and it wasn't his intention. And now as we
inadvertently hurts Pamela Anderson,
right,
which he didn't even think about in all of this.
Didn't even think about it. He realizes that at the end, and he's very
sure. Piper from fucking Orange is the New Black lays into him and throws him out of the apartment.
Yeah.
She plays a porn actress, and she's like, wait a minute, this tape, you're the responsible for this tape. You hurt this poor woman.
He's like, yeah, and he's like all bragging about it at first, and then he's like, oh yeah, okay, all right, yeah, you got a point.
Yeah, and she very explicitly says to him at the time, you talked about consent before, she's like, we all agreed to do this. We showed up for this is our job. We showed up for work. This is this woman's private vacation tape.
Right.
What did you think of Sebastian Stan as Tommy Lee in this and how he is presented? Jesse and I are very much seeing him as the villain of this thing. Do you agree or disagree?
Yes and no. He's clearly an airhead. He clearly doesn't think. But he does go through a serious growth in this. Everyone does. This is an amazing character study of multiple people. You really do see how they all evolve over just, what is this, 6 episodes?
I think it's 8, 6 or 8.
6 or 8?
It is 8 episodes.
8 episodes. And yeah, what he does to Rand is horrible. And apparently the gun thing actually did happen. That was real.
What a jerk.
Yeah, Rand apparently did actually go back for his tools, and Tommy Lee did threaten him with a gun, saying he was keeping the tools as collateral. And anyone can tell you, a decent toolbox of tools, that's expensive.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Those things cost an arm and a leg to have ones that will last multiple jobs like that.
Right, right. That's your livelihood too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you also see a lot with how he's going through his own faults. And again, I'm not defending what he does throughout any of it, but it is very interesting that this is a guy who was on top of the world with Mötley Crüe, and he is dealing with the fact that his style of music and what he makes is gone. And that's actually part of what also intrigued me. Again, little too young to get into Mötley Crüe or anything, but I did come of age when grunge started taking over.
Yeah.
And you see those scenes with the grunge kids going to the music store and ignoring Mötley Crüe, and you see their stuff getting replaced by Kurt Cobain and everything. That was what I did grow up with. And I did find it really interesting. Like, yep, I remember getting into grunge. I remember loving that style in the 90s.
Jesse, Robert, and I did 2 shows, one on the Dirt soundtrack and then one on the Dirt movie. And I think in both cases,
it was the Doit.
The Doit.
There you go.
So when we talked the Doit, Jesse, do you remember the story I told about when I read the book, The Doit? And they were talking to John Corabi. So just to kind of set this up, what you're talking about, Alexis, and I actually think that's a great point that you brought up, is a little bit of the show deals with the death of 80s metal and the rise of the Seattle sound, and how a lot of guys were still actively making music. Like, Dr. Feelgood is like the last great Mötley Crüe album right before the wave of the Seattle sound hits. And then their follow-up, the band, I think, what's his face? Not Nikki Sixx, the singer of Mötley Crüe, leaves the band. They replace him with John Corabi. And in the book, when they were working on the sessions for Generation Swine, I think it was, or Mötley Crüe South, I don't remember which one. They were like, John Corabi, sound like Phil Anselmo of Pantera and Pete Steele of Typo Negative. And John Corabi's like, no, that's impossible. Make up your fucking minds. Like they were so it was illustrative of the fact that Mötley Crüe were flailing and trying to figure out what they were going to do in a world that was no longer accepting their music. And how are they going to still remain relevant? Relative to the point of the show, Alexis, I do think that that's an interesting thing that in addition to you watch Tommy Lee's whole life just get shattered here over the course of 8 episodes. And it doesn't seem like it at first, because it's not like by the end of it, he's smoking dope on the corner in Baltimore, but his music career kind of explodes. His marriage to Pamela Anderson explodes. All anyone's talking about is him in the stupid sex tape in the size of his dick. And that's kind of all he's been reduced to. And I do think that if you're asking me, don't we feel just a little bit sorry for Tommy? He was a victim in all of this too, I suppose. But does that, and I'll pitch it back to you, Alexis, does that outweigh all the wrong he does to both Pamela and Rand throughout the course of 8 episodes?
No, it doesn't. But it makes for a more interesting story.
Sure.
Again, he's a villain, but he is not a 100% evil villain. Like I said, I like this story arc of watching, even though he's a jerk, I do like watching the story of him trying to deal with everything else that's falling around him. And yeah, he doesn't react to it that well. You get so many scenes of him throwing fits, demanding that they sue, not listening to his wife. You get the whole thing with Penthouse Magazine, and the lawyer says they should sue, and Pamela is the smart one here, and she says, if we sue, it's just going to be incentive for them to keep moving. It's like, you're just baiting the attack dog. This is a mistake. We need to walk away and let this die out. And Tommy doesn't listen to her, and the lawyers don't listen to her, and guess what? She's right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jesse.
No, I was just going to say one thing I really enjoyed about if we're going to say one thing good about the Tommy Lee character, in this story, their marriage, they meet and are married within a week? Is that what happens? Is it within days after they meet each other, Pam and Tommy?
Yeah. Like he sees her in a club and is like smitten, and then it's just downhill from there. I kind of thought the same. That's what I originally thought. I was like, oh man, they're gonna get married, and then we're just gonna watch this marriage just be destroyed. But that's not really what you get. What you get is you get Tommy Lee, who, he's way out there. He's aggressive. He's a jerk, whatever. But he really loves Pamela. Yeah.
You can tell that he loves her, and he's got a bad way of showing that, and he can't control his emotions a lot of the time. Well,
let's be fair to him, though. He is sweet to her in the beginning. He is as romantic as one could say they are.
Right. I really like that scene where he cooks her the traditional Greek dinner and tells her about his family. That was a good scene.
She comes home at one point, and she's had a really rough day, and he's just trying to he's trying to please her. And all of this that is happening, this war that he's having with Rand too, that meeting where they have the chain link fence in between.
Damn it, I was going to bring that up next. It's like my favorite scene in the whole show.
Yeah, he is going to kick his ass, but the only reason he's going to do that is because he loves Pamela that much, and what he's done to Pamela, I believe it honestly affected him that much because of how much he loved Pamela. So I had no problem believing that there was a love story here, even though it's all around this insanity around this sex tape.
It is a really great bit of dialogue. There's like, maybe I was an asshole. Maybe I did deserve this, but did she?
Right.
And I love that. Again, you get that. You get kind of Tommy is not completely he's not blame free, and he doesn't get out completely unscathed, but he does have an awakening of realizing, I did screw up, but my screw ups have hurt the woman I love.
Well, both him and Rand, and a lot of the show deals with this. Like, did anyone think about Pamela in all of this? And it goes back to what we started with in this discussion. No, because she showed her text in a magazine So it doesn't matter what we do to her. And isn't that how we think about women in this country? It's like, if you, God forbid, you're overtly sexual, you deserve what you get what you deserve, whatever that may be.
How many times through this series do you see that question be applicable, where somebody needs to give some thought to what Pam has to say, but nobody does? The other
thing about it is, like, a lot of what comes up through each in successive episodes is like, this is around the tire of barbed wire, which bombs. We also reviewed here by Sean and I on Trial. It's not good.
Check out the Source Material Comics podcast, where we did talk about the comic it was based on.
That's right.
Which was decent.
But she goes on. She goes on different, like, who knows how much better Pam's career would have been had none of this happened. But it's certainly, the story that they're telling is she was already behind the 8 ball with a lot of these auditions that she goes on because like nobody wants her. Like, now you're just sex tape girl. And she's like, I am trying desperately to not be Baywatch girl. And now it's even worse. Now I'm sex tape girl, and nobody wants me on their show. And it's not even about how bad or good of an actress she is. She's just been reduced to Barbie doll.
It really does suck, because you see that Pamela wants to be an actress. She doesn't want to be a walking sex figure. You know, she's never wanted that. She loves being a model. She loves, that kind of stuff, but she doesn't want to be just sexy. You see how destroyed she is even early on. Before she finds out about the sex tape, she has that big monologue in Baywatch
that they cut because she can't act, according to them.
And we could stay here for days arguing whether or not Pamela Anderson can act or not, but she really thought barbed wire was gonna be a jumping point for her. She really thought it was gonna launch her out of being a sex symbol.
Right. In her defense, it's a comic book movie starring a big boobed action woman. I mean, recipe for success. It had everything going in its favor until, as Bruce Pritchard would say, until the bell rang and the match started. Yeah, but
Stripperella.
Yep.
Okay, so Andre had never actually seen Barbed Wire when we were watching the series, so I didn't show him the movie. I showed him a critics retrospective on that, and he saw Tamara Morrison was in that, and I was like, hey, look, it's Boba Fett. And of course, at the same time, we're watching Book of Boba Fett, and he looks at me and he goes, how did his career survive this?
Listen, Antonio Banderas was in quite possibly the worst movie ever made in modern cinema, X versus Sever, whatever.
Ballistic X versus, oh my God.
Another one we reviewed here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. Hey,
I have never met a person who willingly watched that movie. Seriously, the only people who admit who have watched that movie, they watched it for a review. No one has willingly wanted to sit down and watch it.
Well, if you want to write a movie as bad as Ballistic X versus Sever, you should check out Grammarly. For you listeners of TV Party Tonight,
if only Grammarly was around then.
If only Grammarly was around then. Grammarly is offering a free download of the Grammarly software. Grammarly's AI-powered products help people communicate more effectively, unlike I just did. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and nearly anywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, spelling mistakes while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. To download Grammarly today, go to getgrammarly.com/W2M Network. Again, that's getgrammarly.com/W2M Network to download Grammarly for free. All right, we're more than halfway through this. Can we talk about porn now? Let's talk about porn. Jesse, you ready to talk about porn?
I hear the internet is for porn.
It is for porn. It is amazing to me
song.
How much.
Let's not. We've already got enough copyright strikes.
Right. Yeah, really. Yeah. Let's talk about how, necessity is the mother of invention. And, I was thinking about the Deuce. And back in the day, Alexis, you and your friends might gather at a theater, or you might get a reel-to-reel projection player, and you would get a stag reel, stag reel, and you would watch these finely cut together and produced pornographic films with your buddies, like you would, Alexis, and and then VHS comes about, right? and VHS players are invented and are now about a price point to where the average person can get them, changes the business forever.
Oh yeah.
Like that is the story. And we'll talk about it in a few months to come. The David Simon show, The Deuce. But that's what that show was about. It was about how Midtown Manhattan was overrun with prostitutes and how like there was an effort to get the prostitutes off the street into the parlors or into porn, which was like burgeoning at the time. And then here we are, point being, in the mid to late 90s, the internet's a thing now. Well, what are we supposed to do with this internet? Why do I have this in my house? Like, you know, why do I have to hear this dial-up tone? What's an AOL disc? Why do they keep sending me 50,000 AOL discs? Well, as it turns out, it's a great distribution model for porn, Jesse. And
Surprise!
And I didn't know this at the time, but it is interesting to think about and at least have a thought exercise for the purposes of this discussion, how much this tape became sort of the impetus for we should put porn on the internet and people will pay for it.
Right.
And years later, Pornhub bought Disney. Wait, I'm projecting into the future again. Anyway, your thoughts, sir, about how that is, how they deal with it in the show, because there's a character who plays like an internet guy, and he's trying to get footage. He's trying to get ownership of the footage so that he can put it on the website and make money with it. And of course, Rand doesn't see the forest for the trees. He's like, no, VHS is how you do porn. That's how it's always been done, except that it wasn't always how it was done. You know, misses an opportunity to see the future. So what did you think of all that? I thought it was great. I thought it was a very interesting thing among all the things we're talking about with this show. Also, the history of porn, which I thought was fantastic.
Right, dude. I mean, it has to happen, obviously, just based upon the content of the tape. That has to be discussed because it completely threw the pornography industry into a whole new era. An absolutely brand spanking new, and I say spanking new.
Take my hand, Jesse. Take my hand. Let's take my hand. Let's go over the pronunciation bridge into the video stores of yore. Before Blockbuster, before USA Video. Remember when we would go into the mom and pop video
mom
store?
And pops, buddy.
We would walk past Batman
There's
89.
I see it back there.
There it is. Little bar doors and everything, and you're like, oh, vaginas.
Right.
You know,
there was a DVD. There was a movie rental store in my college town that's still had the back room.
Yeah.
That's what we're
no
talking
one
about.
under 18 allowed.
There was always a curtain
I like the owner
or
of
bar
that shop.
doors.
She was cool.
My point being is like if Alexis needs to leave her home at night and buy porn like she does, she has to go to the store with her trench coat on and her fedora, and she has to kind of sneak into the back room, and get her selection and put her shame on the table, pay her money, and walk out the door again. Now imagine you don't have to do
Who hasn't been in that situation at 2 a.m. on a Sunday?
Exactly. Who hasn't had to wear their trench coat and fedora to go rent porn? My point is, imagine a world where you don't have to leave your house anymore, and that is the point that the show is bringing up. There was this thing, Pam and Tommy sex tape, and it was available for every schmuck to just sit and spend 90 hours downloading onto their computers through dial-up.
Yeah.
And
anyone else remember
zillions of dollars?
Oh, yeah.
Anyone else remember leaving your thing on to download and just walking away for a couple hours and praying to God your computer didn't crash while you were gone?
I wasn't going to tell this story, but I'm me, so I will.
Oh,
I remember in the early days of dial-up internet. And you would exchange, you'd be on like a porn exchange, and like people would send you pictures, and you never knew what you were going to get. It was like an Easter egg, or a Cracker Jack box, and it was always like, oh, blonde hair, oh, she's pretty, oh, boobies, is that a wine bottle in her twat? All right. Well, now we're not getting any ads on this thing, but true fucking story, man. I'm like, delete.
Mark, where are your kids?
Asleep, dead asleep. Well, they will not be watching this review. I can tell you that much.
Sorry, you're the one who just yelled "wine bottle in her twat" on my left.
Wouldn't be the first time I hit kids.
Where are the children?
It wouldn't be the first time I've yelled that out in this house. It won't be the last.
I don't know how many times we can consecutively get flagged for nudity without having nudity on a YouTube. I don't understand.
TikTok at 44 minutes. Got it.
But
I'm titling this clip on wine bottles in her twat. Anyway, the internet, go.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, obviously Rand's original idea for the business model was to put this up on the internet. You could order online because that's what happened. He's like, well, he needs a plumbing part, right? And he calls up and he's like, oh, the only one place has it, and he can order it online. He's like, well, this is a great idea. I can make money. So, I mean, like I said, it then snowballs. And I love the fact that we're not only talking about like porn here, we're also talking about like copyright issues,
right?
Where he has issues with the fact that somebody's took his page.
I love that scene where he goes after the guy who's also selling it in the parking lot. And he's like, "That's not the real copy," and it's just like, how do you know?
You mad, bro? That's so good.
Yeah, he's like, you did this, you started this, man. You are doing this, and I mean, it's great. It's a fun nostalgic thing too, to watch everybody be like, what the hell's the internet? How and what? You know,
watching Pamela and Tommy go to a cyber cafe.
I want to know who was on the other end of the line. I assume it was another member of Mötley Crüe that was basically tech support for Tommy to hook up his modem in the show. And I'm like, who is that guy? Because I want to know who it is.
Nikki, it's me, Tommy. Okay, well, first put your dick away, Tommy. I'm not talking to you with your dick out. Yes, Nikki, my dick's away. Listen, if you could stop summoning Satan for just a minute.
Just a second, okay?
Could you help me with my modem, Nikki?
Yeah, it's like, how many times do I have to tell you? Every time you try to pick up the phone, it'll disconnect. Stop calling me.
Oh man, but yeah, it was fun nostalgic piece. Plus, it is a really significant moment in internet history, for this tape to exist and what happened to it. So I think it had to go hand in hand with the story that was being told. It just had to be there. It was a neat backdrop piece too.
Okay. So as a kid, I was a big, first, you guys already know I'm a huge fan of stand-up comedy. My Mount Rushmore is like, Richard Pryor, Sam Kinison, Andrew Dice Clay. That's why I'm bringing this up.
Yeah,
buddy. Andrew Dice Clay.
Sorry, little younger. John Mulaney, Christopher Titus, and Patton Oswalt.
Yes, you child.
Bill Cosby. Oh, wait a second.
I conveniently left him off of Mount Rushmore. Red Fox, got it. Can we turn Bill Cosby into Red Fox? We certainly can, Ollie. Anywho, but I was a huge fan growing up of Andrew Dice Clay. I loved his dirty nursery rhymes. Every time I see him show up in something, so like he was in Vinyl on HBO for the one season that existed, and I was like, it's Andrew Dice Clay. So every time he shows up, I get like a little, woohoo, it's my childhood hero. And he's in this as like the mob guy, and he's so good, Jesse.
Oh yeah,
Andrew Dice Clay rocks in this show.
Yeah, and it's funny because I didn't recognize. Look, I know who Andrew Dice Clay is. I had no idea that was him until I was reading like the cast tonight, and I was like, "Wait a minute!" And I knew you'd be all over it.
Oh yeah,
and he was good too. I mean, he was like the laid back mob dude. He certainly wasn't Andrew Dice Clay like up in your face.
Alexis, what did you think of the cherry torture scene where he's like making him eat the bowl of like vodka infused cherries and whatnot? That's such a good scene.
That was pretty good. Now, again, too young. I really don't know much about Andrew Dice Clay. Okay, you want to know what my introduction to Andrew Dice Clay was? A parody episode of Tiny Toon Adventures, where there's a giant. Okay. They have this episode where Babs wants to be a stand-up comedian, and she's got to go last after all these other comedians. One is clearly Andrew Dice Clay. It's a giant roach wearing the studded leather jacket. But the joke is that all he says is beep beep. It's because it's being censored repeatedly. And you see Buster, Plucky, and Hampton in the front just going, "Oh my god!"
Dickory dock. Anyway, let me go over to you, Alexis. We've kind of been batting this around. What else did you want to talk about with this show? What's on your mind?
Trying to think, because so we really have covered a lot about it. the wanton sexuality of Pamela Anderson, for lack of better terms. It really is interesting to see the growth of the internet through this, and just the growth, I guess, of porn, for lack of better words. Just because, you see them burning, you see the other guy. Again, I love that scene in the parking lot when he's yelling at the dude who's also selling the tapes. I'm sitting there going, well, you have an argument. His tape probably is lower quality. When you make a copy of a copy, it obviously sucks.
I'll ask you this one. What did towards the end of this show, Joe Rogan's working for Andrew Dice Clay. He's trying to pay back the money that he owes him that got the whole operation started. And he starts talking, Joe Rogan's character starts talking about how he can't sleep at night.
It's Seth Rogen, right?
Joe Rogan, I don't know how that would be pulled off, but all right. We'll go
Seth Rogen, whatever.
Joe Rogan just issued an ultimatum to Spotify. If they threaten to censor him, he's quitting.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Most middle-aged white men will be very sad if that happens. Listen, Seth Rogen, I wanted to get your craft review of his performance in the second half of the show, where he's sort of unraveling as he's trying to make all this money back, and he's just getting it from all sides. Like he really thought he was doing an okay thing, and he just didn't think about the consequences. And now he's having to beat people up in their apartments for money, and he was just a carpenter, he was just a dude, and now he's become all of these negative things.
Yeah, has to beat up the Google is a guy person. You ever seen the videos if Google was a guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's same guy.
That dude?
Character. Yeah, character actor. He's been in a ton of stuff. We talked a lot about, was Tommy the villain? And we look at so much of what Rand does. And looking back on it, a lot of times Andre and I found ourselves just kind of yelling at the screen, well, what did you think? What happened?
Right.
Clearly he didn't.
Yeah, and part of that is did he think that the tape would get easily copied? It's we're all yelling. It's duh. Why did you not think somebody else would copy it?
Well, I don't.
But again, it's
is the other side of that. How many people are seriously giving thoughtful thinking about copyright law?
Well,
and what protects it.
Again, that's kind of the interesting thing looking at that time period, because now we have a serious problem with pirated media.
Yeah.
Not pointing fingers at who may or may not have gotten some of us some pirated comic books so we could do reviews. But that is something that has never really been thought of, hadn't really been thought about. It wasn't a big thing. Now, again, you have to kind of put yourself in the mindset of that time. Nowadays, we know this stuff is going to get copied and put out to 1 million servers in no time at all. We always talk about, if something gets on the internet, congratulations, you're never getting it off. This was not a mindset they had back in the day.
Right.
They didn't realize that there was no concept of the idea of opening Pandora's box, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, people just didn't see the future coming at them. Who would, again, Seth Rogen doesn't own the material, so when people are copying it, he has no leg to stand on for legal recourse. But that is the whole point of copyright infringement. If you look at what China does, right? China steals American stuff all the time and throws a new label on it. In Disney, I remember reading about Disney being in constant fights with China. They want to have that market because stuff that hits in China makes $1 billion. On the other hand, country most responsible for stealing Disney shit. And it's well, what do we do? Go ahead, Jesse. You wanted to jump in.
I was just going to say, I mean, it was in such an early era of the internet. Also, how it was going to the amount of users was just going to continue to increase and increase and increase, because more people were going to have the opportunity to get dial up or easier access to the internet. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a combination of this thing is on there. More people are going to have access to it. It's going to start getting more and more press. And it's interesting to see how people were kind of shutting this down, especially the comedians, the guys sitting around the writing table at Jay Leno, and initially a sex tape, whatever, we're not going to pay attention to it. And then things start happening, and it's basically because the internet's involved. People are watching this tape or watching, hearing about it online or whatever. And then then it becomes a media firestorm. More people find out about it as soon as the media gets a hold of it and start putting their stamp on it, and then it just continues to grow. So it's a very poignant piece in showing you how powerful the internet was becoming, and it's still a powerful thing.
So one thing I wanted to bring up really quick is the effect that the Pam and Tommy tape had on the culture in terms of people seeing it and reacting to it and thinking, well, yeah, Pamela Anderson was already a star. She was already on Baywatch when this all happened. He had already been in like Mötley Crüe for 10 years, I think it was, when this all happened. I think probably longer. But the perception for a lot of people might have been, hey, if I put myself out there in a sexual way, maybe I can be a
welcome to TikTok
too. You beat me to it, but I was thinking about this, and I just want to throw this nightmare at you, Jesse. I don't know if you've had how much you've had to deal with this second and third hand. I know not first hand, or you would have told me by now. But I was hearing a story. Obviously I can't say names, but people I know were talking about their junior high children. I want to stress this: junior high. And they were talking about having to take away their social media from their junior high children because their junior high children were getting Snapchat videos from other junior high children in various stages of undress. Like, these people, won't say if it's a boy or a girl, it doesn't really matter, but these junior high children were conducting like group chats and sending out Snapchat videos of them in various stages of undress to other classmates.
Isn't that technically distributing child porn?
This
sure is, Ollie.
Yeah, this just happened, I think, within the past 2 or 3 weeks at the school that my daughter goes to. So there were some kids that, and it was a good bit of them, who they found out that this was happening. The authorities got involved, and now it's weird because, yeah, there's that star factor that Pam and Tommy have, and everybody wants to see that. And I think this whole series is about them not embracing that at all. Right. But boy, have things changed when it comes to our culture now. That is embraced.
That's the thing. Like, she actively fights against it, but it's like nobody's interested in what Pam's story is. No one cares. No one cares about Pam's perspective or how this affected her mental health. How traumatizing it was, what it says about the treatment of women in society and culture at large. No one gave a shit. The message they got from the Pam and Tommy tape is, put my tits and ass on the internet and I'll be famous. And how do you miss the point entirely and get the wrong message?
I mean, that's what makes this series so complex, and I think it's a good 8-episode series in my opinion. As funny as it is, there's also some other concerns about how we're revisiting this and talking about it again might be re-traumatizing, and that's the word I pulled off of a review, re-traumatizing. I was like, man, that is, that's a good thought to put in your head about this series. But again, these people think that because this has happened and now they have the opportunity, they have the means to put this stuff out. Maybe they'll become famous too. Maybe they'll become as loved as much. I don't know, but I mean, I don't know. I just know
we're not here to solve the problem. I'm merely pointing out the fact that this is a show with a very clear perspective. What they did, what Rand did, for whatever his reasons were, to Pam and Tommy was wrong. And the real victim of this was Pamela Anderson. But by the same token, no one cares. Right. No one cares what happened to this. I'm like, you watch the show and you feel bad for her, and you're like, and then you feel bad that you didn't feel bad the first time it actually happened. But more to the point, and this is the point that I'm raising, how much of our society missed the point of this show and is just very much focused on, oh, isn't it fun to put yourself out there that way, and maybe fame and notoriety will occur because of it. Go ahead, Alexis.
I think there's also an argument about the idea of shame versus placing the blame where it rightfully belongs. Again, we talk about how Pamela is treated, that because she posts for Playboy, because she made a sex tape, she has no right to fight it. And I think back to when I was in high school and college. We were told about be careful with what you put on the internet. We were shown articles of people, mostly girls, who had taken very risque pictures and somehow they'd ended up online, and then a future employer found them when they did a Google search for any, information. And then you think about, it was a couple of years ago, there was a big scandal. A lot of celebrities had the cloud was broken into.
That was the,
and
I remember what it was called.
Yeah, and a lot of celebrities had there was a lot of private pictures that were put online. Oh my God, what's the name of the girl who played Mystique in the X-Men movie? She had a
Rebecca Stamos?
No,
Jennifer
the younger
Lawrence.
One. Jennifer Lawrence. Yeah,
Jennifer
she
Lawrence.
had these private photos. They weren't meant to be shared with anyone, but they were hacked through the cloud.
Right.
And the
Mark's looking them up right now. Continue.
You'll never know.
Wine bottle in a.
Oh no, that I got plenty of those.
Well, anyway, it reminds me that so many people saw that, and the reaction wasn't theft is wrong. That I can't believe someone would steal it. It was, well, they shouldn't have, taken that stuff. They shouldn't have shot those pictures.
Right.
And it's very scary. Not just the idea someone could steal and put it on there, but the fact is that you could make something like that totally private, as is your right. You should, you have every right to make something like that for yourself, for your spouse, for whoever. But if that gets leaked and gets online, they're not going to, no one's going to blame the person who leaked it.
But only
they're going to blame you.
But only to the women, because if Jesse, as he often does, puts his dick out on the internet, maybe there's a conversation about like, do you know your dick's on the internet? Yes. All right, Jesse, back to the spreadsheets with you. There he goes. But that's I think the point that you're driving at is that when women do stuff like that, it's like, hey, get that shit off the internet. What's wrong with you? Jesse does it. Like, all right. I mean, whose dick isn't on the internet these days?
But yeah, if I were to make a sexy video for my husband and somehow it got leaked, no, if somebody hacked my computer, my Facebook profile and everything got hacked over Christmas, and I had someone trying to steal money through my eBay and Etsy and everything. They could, if I had something private on one of those files, they could have gotten that. And if that had gotten out, no one would be saying, oh, Alexis, how horrible that somebody stole that from you, that you got hacked. I would be shamed. Yeah. I would have people shaming me, saying, how could you make something like that?
Yeah, right. Why were you recording yourself in any kind of a sexual way, as if you're not a person?
Exactly.
As if sex is somehow an unnatural witchery. Which is the
like I said, you're either a sex object or you're a mother. You are you can't be both. You cannot be.
Right.
This is why so many actresses, when they show nudity early on in their films, or they play very slutty, sexy characters very early on in their films, it tends to, they get pigeonholed into that role.
And you know who that didn't happen to? People like Sylvester Stallone, who also, I think, like did porn or something.
Yeah, the Italian Stallion, right?
Right. And meanwhile, he goes on to do Rocky and Rambo, and has
multiple Oscar nominations.
Right.
And does anyone the name of the porn?
Yeah.
I hope so.
It is. That's why I said it.
I had a feeling. I didn't know, but I just wanted to make sure.
I know.
Did you really think I was making a random Rocky?
I was like, I've heard of him being referred to as that, and now all of a sudden, April 7th, I realized that there is a porn that has Sylvester Stallone in it called The Italian Stallion.
I'm going to need you to get that porn off your shelf, Alexis, and show it to Jesse, okay? All right. Anything else about Pam and Tommy? Because the only thing I have to say about it is I very much enjoyed the show. I think Lily James did an excellent job as Pam. They show it at the beginning and then they show it at the end, her on the Jay Leno show, and it looks like her fucking head's about to fall off. I kept waiting for her to pull a Joaquin Phoenix and just shoot him, Joker style. But,
I will also say this again. I applaud the makeup, but whoever did the makeup on the Jay Leno actor, that was pretty lacking. Yeah,
they by that point they just gave up. But yeah, everybody in this I think does a great job of acting. I think it's a great conversation piece. In some ways, it's a bit slight. Like that first episode really drags. Like on the one hand, you get a good sense of who Tommy Lee is and who Rand is, and they're going to be the two pillars holding up the show. But also, it was kind of a drag to get through. Like, I feel like you could have done this in probably 4 to 6 episodes, and it didn't need the full 8, and that there's a lot of filler here. But I think it's mostly well done. It's definitely well acted. But I think the most important aspect, Jesse, to this show is that what a conversation piece it is. Like, sometimes we do these TV parties, like Book of Boba Fett, and I'm like, are we done? Please tell me we're done. Are we done talking about this stupid fucking show now? Can I go to bed? And
Baby
then there's
Yoda.
Could be worse. I actually talked Book of Boba Fett, and somebody hadn't watched The Mandalorian, so they had no idea what we were talking about with Grogu.
You know, it's Alexis, you and I had a conversation a few years ago, and we got into a debate about like The Mandalorian versus Watchmen. And I was like, The Mandalorian it's fine. It's a nice show. It's just slight. There's not much to it. And, you know, as opposed to something like The Watchmen, which is a great, thick, wonderful conversation piece. Kind of the same thing here, where Pam and Tommy, I think in terms of subject matter is very hefty. It doesn't seem like so, because like it's about the story of a sex tape. But then you really dig into it, and there's so much to talk about here. Like, I'm limiting the discussion to about an hour-ish. Like, we're going to close up shortly. But we could do another hour on so many aspects of this show that we didn't even begin to touch on. So I think it's worth a watch. I think for people who, you know, you're looking for something new to watch and, you know, and an interesting story, you can get past the first episode or two. It really does
past the talking dick.
I mean, the talking dick's the best part.
Tough.
But I think it's a worthy show to watch. Jesse, and then Alexis, last words. Go.
Okay. Yeah, so I would say absolutely well acted. You mentioned that, and I think that's superbly on point. I have a few favorite moments, specifically when Rand makes the decision to give the money to his ex-wife, soon to be ex-wife, for the divorce instead of saving his own ass, like the 10 grand that would get him out of debt from Andrew Dice Clay's mobster character. Instead, he takes that money and gives it to his soon to be ex-wife to cover the divorce.
Piper from Orange is the New Black.
Right. So I really like that. I will say I didn't expect a love story. I was expecting more Tommy Lee beating on Pamela Anderson.
That's what you saw in the news, right? There wasn't a headline, Tommy loves Pam so much. No, it was Tommy punches Pam so much.
That doesn't really, I mean, you see his erratic behavior, but you don't really get the sense until, like, I think that final episode where she's trying to make him sign that paper, and he really blows up. But he doesn't.
And he's destroying their living room, just throwing all the furniture.
I think she's got. I mean, he may have like put his hands on her, and she was like, "You're hurting me," and he was very sorry about it. But you don't get him beating the crap out of her or anything like that. So that's what I was expecting, and that's not what we got. And I really like that. But all in all, yeah, I was really pleased with the show. I had a good time. It was disjointed in some places, but I was along for the ride, so I had a fun time.
All right, take me home, Alexis.
One of the things that I really love so much about this show was that there's something different that you can focus on no matter what. You have the whirlwind romance between Pam and Tommy. You have the shame of a woman daring to, be sexual, like we've talked about. You have the sudden, explosion of the internet. You have the development of porn. You have these characters like Rand, who realizes far too late that he has bitten off more than he can chew, and that he has destroyed multiple lives. He really has. The idea that he did not think this through, and maybe he couldn't think this through. Maybe this is not something he ever could have predicted. But there is something for everyone. There are multiple aspects to this story, and it's very fascinating to see them all intertwine.
All right, folks, that is our discussion of Pam, Tommy, the internet, and wine bottles in the twat. I hope you what? We covered a lot of ground tonight. This was
we did, didn't we?
This is
Some we would rather not have covered.
This is going to be fun. The first time one of us makes this joke about it in the network chat, and Pat and all of them are going, "I'm sorry, what?"
No, they know it's me. There'll be no what about it. They'll be like, "Oh, Mark had another sex talk." Anyway, thank you for joining us on our review of Pam and Tommy. That closes up the week of podcast here. We did a lot of wrestling, did a little bit of Morbius, some baseball. Next week, we've got on Monday, We've got Ronnie Adams currently in our chat tonight. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight, Ronnie. We will be reviewing Ambulance. We'll be doing a separate Damn You Hollywood for that, and then Alexis and Ambulance. Getting a Wambulance. Alexis and Robert will be joining me to review Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Jesse and I will be starting a TV party series called From the Corner to the Deuce, the collected works of David Simon, and we'll be starting with Homicide season 5.
Just wait till we get to The Wire, and Mark is just going to be a giddy little schoolgirl bouncing up and down in his chair, giggling.
I will be out of control. I will be acting it out. I only had the one conversation with Robert a few years ago. We did an Everyone Loves a Bad Guy on The Wire, so I've never actually officially reviewed it, like episode by series by season rather. Anyway, a season of television for the next 2-3 years, going through all the collected works of David Simon that he produced and was a major contributor to. So Homicide, The Corner, The Wire, Generation Kill, Show Me a Hero, Treme, all of that one by one. So looking forward to that. Kicking that off with Homicide season 5. And then on Thursday, Alexis and I will be reviewing Resident Alien. Hey, Alexis, I started that today. Alan Tudyk is hilarious. That's all I'll say.
I've only gotten one episode, and then I got caught up working on a handful of things, but I've a week to watch 7 episodes. But you have the first episode with Alan Tudyk impersonating Donnie Brasco. How can you not love that?
Oh, wow.
It was really funny. Yeah, there was something from the first season. He learned to speak English and use American colloquialisms by watching Law and Order.
Right.
So then he has a head injury to start off season 2, and all he can remember is what he watched from Law and Order. So now he thinks he's that character.
And we have the return of Nathan Fillion as the talking octopus, and they gave him a name.
Yes.
I love it. Number 42. That's his
right.
name. Number 42 with the black bean sauce.
Yes.
That was great.
Hey, get me out of here! I'm the special this week.
Run, you glorious two-legged bastard!
So that's all we're doing here. Jesse, what are you doing on Source Material?
Oh, yeah. Hey, the Source Material Comics Podcast. Well, just real quick, you mentioned the wrestling thing. We had Tripped Up Trivia that hit where we did some wrestling trivia, so make sure to check that out. I'm currently looking at the calendar as I go down through here. Well, last week, I hear there's this great movie that came out called Morbius, and Chris Armstrong and myself talked The Man Called Morbius on Source Material, and boy, was that something else. Like I said, 4 things: Morbius, a hoodie, the villain, the rose, and the ultimate nullifier. Tune in. There's 9 issues that Chris Armstrong and I cover. And we'll connect the dots for you. Then upcoming on the Unspoken Issues podcast, we'll be talking Cosmic Carnage, or the Carnage Cosmic, as it is titled in that series. There's 2 issues of Amazing Spider-Man where the symbiote gets onto the Silver Surfer. And we got some problems. And then we have a what if that we covered as well. And then I think we are going to also be doing a comic book. Me and Ronnie got to get something figured out. I believe that's on the schedule for later this month. We're going to sit down and talk a little bit about whatever he wants to talk about. So schedule's open. That's about all I have on my agenda.
Hey, before I give it over to Alexis, we did talk a little bit about Mötley Crüe tonight. I've always enjoyed Mötley Crüe. I'm going to bring my daughter to see them with Def Leppard and Poison this summer. I've only been waiting like 2 or 3 years to see this show because of the unnamed origin of unnamed virus of unknown origin. Anywho, if you're like me and you're wanting to check out some Mötley Crüe, but you don't want to spend any money, and really, who does? Who doesn't love free music? Do you love free music, Jesse? I love free
I'm
music.
cheap. If I could only fondle free music.
Yes. I like to do everyone's junk. You should go to Amazon Music, getamazonmusic.com/W2M Network. Again, it's getamazonmusic.com/W2M Network for a free 30-day trial of the Amazon Music Unlimited service. Complete the sign-up process. Enjoy your 30 days of streaming anything you want. All the Mötley Crüe you can find. You can go back to the satanic era of Mötley Crüe, the stripper era of Mötley Crüe, the drug dealing era of Mötley Crüe, all the eras of Mötley Crüe. And then when you're done with that, you can check out Poison and Def Leppard and Wasp. You can fuck like a beast, Jesse. Did you know that? You can be like Wasp and fuck like a beast?
Yeah.
on
Great.
AmazonMusic.com.
That's fantastic.
I understand. All right. Speaking of Wasp, Alexis Hejna, I hear you make jewelry. What?
Did you just call me a wasp?
I really was going to say, speaking of fucking like a beast, but I figured, well, that's inappropriate.
It's like,
I'll just go
let's
with
see how-
Wasp.
yeah. Oh, horrible segue.
I'm not technically a Protestant.
Good takeaway. Sell your wares, God damn it.
All right, yes, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. We're getting ready for Planet Comic-Con here in 2 weeks here in Kansas City. This is our home show. This is also marking the official 10-year anniversary. Planet Comic-Con was the very first con we ever worked at. It's our 10-year anniversary, coming back to it. So excited, love being there. Week after that, I'm in Springfield, Missouri for Vision Con. This is a smaller convention, but we always have a good time there. Just found out that the original the voice of Space Ghost from Space Ghost Coast to Coast will be among one of the guests there.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah. Now, say talking about flashbacks. As far as our online presence, our shop on Etsy is still up and running. We have finally figured out how to appease Amazon with their photo policies. I basically have to go through and at least the first picture for every product has to have no background, like white paint buckets, no background. So I'm going to be spending a lot of time in Photoshop over the next few days, but I'm getting the products back up as quickly as I can. So hopefully we'll have the Amazon shop up and running. In the meantime, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. That is Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
All right, folks, thank you for joining us here on TV Party tonight. Please remember to like and subscribe our YouTube page if you enjoy seeing our pretty faces as we talk about this stuff. So like and subscribe on YouTube if you're just wanting to listen to the traditional audio podcast. We're on all your favorite podcatchers, Stitchers, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, Google Podcasts. We're all there. So type in W2Mnet and you will find us. You'll not only get us, but all the Sean stuff, all the Eric Watkins stuff. He almost podcasts almost as much as I do these days. So, and then we have Brian Espinoza with his League of Legends podcast. So there's multiple shows a day, every single day of the week. We have Bill Yankovic's That Wrestling Show. There's something for everybody here on the W2M network. So please like and subscribe and leave a comment if you're feeling froggy. With that, thank you for joining us once again. Be well, be safe, and behave.